Hello and welcome to the MovieKing Podcast. My name is David Jurmann and I'll be your host. On today's episode, I'm going to review the film Wicked for Good, and in the second half, I'm going to review the movie Eternity. Starting off with Wicked for Good, so I know I'm a little late to reviewing this one, but I guess better late than never, right? But I want to start this off with a little context. So I saw the Broadway show around 2 years ago. I liked it but didn't love it, and I kind of agree with people that the first half of it was better than the second. But I was surprised to find that I actually liked the Wicked Part 1 movie from last year better than I liked the play. I don't know why that is exactly. I mean, a lot of people love the play. I wasn't as huge on the play as everyone else, but I did think the movie was great. And so that naturally made me very excited for Wicked for Good. John M. Chu returns to direct, and the trailers looked very promising, despite not really finding the second half of the play all that special and kind of knowing what already happens in it. I found myself still getting very excited for this movie, and I won't bury the lead. I did enjoy Wicked for Good. Do I think it's even close to as good as the first one? No, I don't. But bear with me, because I actually may sound pretty negative on the movie at times in this review, but it's not because I didn't like the movie, it's because I'm surprisingly mixed on a lot of it. But don't get me wrong, I did enjoy the movie. I will still give it, a positive review, but I just do think it has problems that held it back significantly, and I think when I'm a little disappointed in something, I'm going to look more at the problems than I probably would maybe in a different movie. Not to say that I wouldn't look at the problems, but the problems just stick out a bit more here because they're just kind of glaring when everything else is so positive around it. But certain aspects of this movie, though, I did know I would enjoy, and those things I did. Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande are both excellent once again as Elphaba and Glinda. They're wonderful together and have great chemistry. Erivo brings such great dramatic chops to the role, and her voice is stellar just as it was last time. And Grande continues to take a character that I found kind of annoying in the play, and part of that may just be due to the actor I saw. I have nothing against the character, just maybe the performance or direction on that I wasn't a huge fan of. But I don't know, either way, what John M. Chu and Ariana Grande did with this character is great. She took this character and made her so endearing and funny, and just honestly a highlight of both of these movies. I mean, Erivo is fantastic, don't get me wrong. She's probably the best part of all these movies, but just Ariana Grande took one of the parts of the play I wasn't even crazy about and made her one of the best parts of these movies too. And I think that's crazy good. Ariana Grande would certainly deserve a Best Supporting Actress nomination or win here if she does get it. I mean, I think last year was very well deserved when she got the nomination. She would deserve it again this year too. And everything technically about the film is also just as good as I remembered from the first one. The cinematography is nice. The production design is great. The costume design is very good. The visual effects are very well realized. Really, everything you could probably imagine technically is well done here. And here's something people will probably disagree with me on, but I actually think the color grading looks better in this film than it did in the last one. I'm not sure if that was just my theater and the projection quality on that, but there are a few scenes in particular here where I noticed a lot of color popping out. And really, as a whole, the colors seemed a lot better. Because I do agree, in the first one, it's very muted. I mean, I get the reasoning they said they did it. I don't think it was the right call. I think the first one should have had more color. This one, I think, does a better job. It's still not quite probably where it should have been, but I think it was a lot better. And, but moving on from that, the music is also good. Notably, not a lot of memorable songs compared to the first film. Obviously, you have the big number for Good, and then a few others as well that I really enjoyed. And I think because of the legwork the first movie did, I was very intrigued coming into this movie and seeing where everything would go. Even though I kind of already knew where it would go, I was still curious to know what, this team would do with this story. And even if it's not as strong of a movie as the first one, I kind of treat this like a second half of a single movie where I'm already excited to see the rest of it play out, and I'm kind of judging it based on everything I know prior. Like, it feels less like a sequel and more just like part 2, exactly what it should have been called. I mean, I called it Wicked for Good, but originally it was Wicked Part 2, and it really does feel like a second part of a whole story. But with all that being said, I think this movie has a lot more flaws than I was hoping it would. Granted, I did think the section of the play was also flawed for similar reasons, but because I enjoyed the first film so much, and I thought a lot of the added time and scenes they did made it so enjoyable, I was kind of hoping this part would do the same thing. But really, my main issues with this movie boil down to a few things. One is that it feels oddly rushed and kind of disjointed. Like, despite the fact that the single movie is not much shorter than the entirety of the Broadway play, I don't remember it feeling this rushed in the show. And similar to the last film, I couldn't even really tell you how much was added and wasn't in the play. But I don't know, when the movie started, I felt like I was playing catch up and it just wasn't flowing super well. Certain people felt out of character to me, particularly Nessa. I just didn't really. It was like this in the play too. I mean, it's not like new to this movie, but it's just something about the choices they made with her and maybe a couple other characters too were just kind of like, why did you do that? Like, it doesn't really feel like the natural continuation of where we left off with them. And that kind of leads me into my other big issue with the film, which is that part one completely stands on its own despite being a prequel to The Wizard of Oz. This part feels tied to The Wizard of Oz so much that it feels like character payoff was traded in for fan service and surprise revelations. And that's not necessarily this movie's fault because it's just how the story is. And I understand, if you didn't follow the story, well, people who love the play might get upset and say you just butchered the whole thing. I get that, this kind of movie comes with its own set of preset notions. Everyone has like an idea of what they're expecting out of it. You have to kind of do it to some degree. But I guess what I was hoping for in this movie is enough expansion on the play, like the first movie where, even though it was much longer than that section of the play, I felt like the journey was well spent and well earned. And I think to an extent it still is here. Like, I did get a bit emotional towards the end as everything was coming to a close, but I think they just could have done more, expansion on the characters so that way these choices, these characters that maybe didn't feel super satisfying to me here maybe would have felt more so if they just took the time to, give more development, kind of set up the stage more, because you have that added time now. But I just didn't really feel like they took advantage of that. But I'd say Wicked for Good is a pretty good movie. I liked it, it's entertaining, and overall it's well made, but I think it has a lot of problems that hold it back from being anywhere near as good as part 1 is to me. Like, as soon as I watched the first one, I wanted to see it again. For this movie, I haven't really felt that, and I'm not even sure when the next time I'll watch it is. But yes, I did like the movie, and I would recommend it, especially if you like the first one. But I don't think this film is going to have the same critical and award success, and as a whole, I would just say it's pretty good. But even so, good is good enough, I guess. So I'm going to rate Wicked for Good a B. Alright, and next up is Eternity. So this is a pretty small movie, but I was very excited to see it. I tend to love high-concept small movies. They're the kinds of films I want to make and generally gravitate towards because it forces filmmakers to think outside the box in a more limited space. And I also love big movies that tend to be more intimate, but small movies with big ideas tend to be a lot of fun, and also very smart usually. And in the case of Eternity, it's basically about this woman who dies and goes to the afterlife. And from there, she has to choose who she wants to spend her eternity with. The man she married and has lived with for many, many years, or the first love of her life who she always wanted to be with but was unable to. And it's a fascinating concept where this dilemma carries the entire story. For the whole movie, it's just kind of about this one decision this woman has to make about who she wants to spend the rest of eternity with. And the movie kind of ends up being this more intelligent rom-com. In a lot of ways, this really feels like the movie people thought Materialists would end up being. And when people saw the trailer for that movie, they thought it would be a rom-com with a love triangle at the center. And really, Materialist was more of a drama with some comedy sprinkled here and there. Eternity is kind of the opposite, where it's more of a comedy with some drama. And what I did find kind of interesting, too, is that in a lot of ways, Eternity is very similar to Materialists. They're both about love triangles, they both explore similar themes, and even the plots are actually kind of similar when you look at them side by side. Both movies are commenting on love, of course, but where Materialists asks, what is love? Eternity asks, why is love? And overall, I found the movie to be interesting, engaging, and entertaining. I was interested to see where the story would go, despite always being pretty sure I knew where it was headed, and I kind of did. And while it did basically do what I expected, the way it got there I didn't see coming. But starting with the performances, everyone in the main cast does a good job. Elizabeth Olsen is always charming and likable. It's great to see more from Miles Teller again after he went on a little hiatus from acting. It's kind of weird. He was in like everything for a bunch of years, and then he just kind of disappeared, did Top Gun Maverick, kind of disappeared a little bit again for, a couple streaming movies, and now he's back for Eternity. And I think he did a very good job. He's very funny here. And then Callum Turner does a good job going against Teller while still holding his own nicely. And I think the two have great chemistry. They kind of have a lot of bro talks and stuff like that. And Elizabeth Olsen really is just terrific here. But in the supporting cast, the easy standout is Divine Joy Randolph, who is super funny and energetic. I loved her in The Holdovers. I don't think I've seen her in anything since then, but she's really good here. And then the characters themselves are all likable, though I don't think I could really tell you much about them personally. Like, I could tell you about their personalities and their desires, but most of their, development is entirely based around the story and what needs to happen. So I didn't feel like I really learned much about them as people, but I don't know, it kind of serves its purpose. I still would have liked a bit more from them though, since they're kind of crucial to everything. I think if I, truly got great character development here, this movie would be another tier above what it is, but that's just kind of what it is. And what does a lot of heavy lifting in this movie is the chemistry between the cast and then the direction that David Frayne brings. He knows how to get these very intimate moments that get creative and have a good balance of drama and humor. The film is moving too, especially when it gets into the third act. I did find myself touched by what was happening, even if I saw it coming from a mile away. And again, the way it gets there does have a few surprises that caught me off guard and I found moving as well. I will say though, I think one of my main issues with the film is that a lot of these surprises feel somewhat pointless by the time the movie ends. And I think it's because instead of really committing to one of its ideas, the movie will kind of change its mind and do something else, and I think as a result, some parts of the movie feel a bit too overly complicated in trying to get to its main point. It knows what the finish line is, but in trying to get there, it just kind of hits all these other things, it doesn't need to do it. It's just kind of doing it because it's trying to really, kind of show different options and stuff. And I kind of wish the movie either chose to stick with one of its more ambitious ideas or just abandon them entirely, because it kind of felt tacked on, like the writers just couldn't decide what they wanted, so it felt like they wanted to have their cake and eat it too. I get why, I kind of enjoyed those moments, but I also, in watching, it was just kind of like, did we need to go through all these hoops to get to this? Was it really worth, doing all these different things just to make this point? So, I don't know, I felt a little conflicted on that, but I do think as a whole, Eternity is a worthwhile movie. It's solid, it's funny, it's original, and it's a movie that I think general audiences will really resonate with. I think a lot of people will have a good time with it and, smile and just really, I don't know, I guess just be moved by it. It feels a bit like a movie you would have gotten in the 90s or early 2000s, that kind of rom-com that I don't think we've gotten in a while. So that was very charming. It was a good movie, and, I think people will enjoy it, certainly more than Materialists anyway, which I have to say, I think I like Materialists more than Eternity, but that's just me. Personally, I was hoping to walk away from this movie liking it a little more than I did, but I still did really enjoy it, and I'm going to rate Eternity a B. And that about does it for this episode. If you want to follow my reviews, you can find me on Letterboxd at MovieKing1224. You can also listen to this podcast on your favorite apps such as Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. If you have any comments or feedback, I would love to hear it and improve this show. And of course, if you've enjoyed this episode, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell to hear more like it. I appreciate you all so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.